The moment she stops responding, a battlefield opens inside your skull. Most men lose the war before they even realize they're fighting. Here's what nobody tells you about her silence. It doesn't just hurt. It rewires your brain in real time. You become a detective obsessing over a case that was closed months ago. Every text gets analyzed. Every memory gets dissected. You're searching for clues in a crime scene she already walked away from. This is why her disappearance cuts men deeper than it ever cuts her. You experience silence as amputation. She experiences it as liberation. You feel abandoned. She feels in control. You're drowning in confusion while she's breathing freely on dry land. The gap between those two experiences is where men destroy themselves. Your first instinct screams at you to fix it. Send one more message. Make one more call. Prove you still matter. But that instinct is a trap. Every reach out confirms her suspicion. You need her more than she needs you. Attraction dies the moment that equation becomes obvious. She chose distance from your energy. Not randomly. Deliberately. Any attempt to close that gap doesn't demonstrate love. It demonstrates dependency. It proves your stability requires her access code. And nothing evaporates respect faster than watching a man crumble without permission to be present. Men weaponize patience like it's a secret strategy. Wait long enough and she'll miss you. That's not strategy. That's surrender wearing a clever disguise. This situation was never about perfect timing. It's about who owns their peace when the room goes quiet. Whoever remains least disturbed by the void holds invisible power. When you spend months frozen in emotional suspension, refreshing your phone, analyzing her social media, waiting for cracks in her resolve, you hand her everything. You make her absence the center of your solar system. Nothing repels a woman faster than becoming someone's emotional waiting room. Her extended disappearance reveals exactly two possibilities. She's detaching permanently, or she's testing whether you'll detach first. Both scenarios punish pursuit. Both scenarios reward release. Chasing her shadow only proves you're still orbiting while she explores new galaxies. Desire never flows toward men stuck in emotional limbo. The void communicates more honestly than words ever could. When she maintains months of radio silence, she's delivering a verdict without a courtroom. And here's the confrontation most men spend years dodging. If reaching out mattered to her, obstacles wouldn't exist. She'd find a way. She always finds a way when she wants to. Her silence isn't a puzzle waiting for your solution. It's an answer you're refusing to accept. Clarity only wounds when it contradicts the fantasy you've been protecting. She told you everything you needed to know. She just didn't use words to say it. Most men believe that releasing her means raising a white flag. They've got it completely backwards. Walking away from someone who already walked away isn't defeat. It's the last act of self-preservation you have left. Surrender has been sold to you wrong your entire life. When you stop forcing yourself back into her world, something unexpected happens. The pressure valve releases. Tension dissolves. And tension is precisely what transforms temporary distance into permanent exile. Choosing silence over pursuit sends a message louder than any speech you could deliver. It tells her you're not auditioning for relevance. You're not manufacturing closure to soothe your ego. You're not collapsing because she removed herself from the equation. That restraint communicates something almost extinct in modern men. Emotional sovereignty. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Her disappearance was never designed to bring you back together. It was designed to reveal whether she belonged in your life at all. When seasons change without a single word from her, that wasn't delay. That wasn't processing. That wasn't confusion. That was decision. Fully formed and deliberately executed. Speed of acceptance determines speed of recovery. Men who grip onto maybe sacrifice years they'll never recover. Men who embrace what is rebuild twice as fast with half the damage. Something shifts inside you when you genuinely let go. Your nervous system stops scanning for threats. Your mind quits hunting for hidden meanings. Your worth slowly untangles from her response patterns. Real detachment transforms everything. Not the performed kind you post about. Not the pretend version designed to trigger jealousy. Authentic release that expects nothing in return. That's the only soil where anything healthy could ever grow again. She senses when you're hovering. Even across months of void. Especially across months of void. Emotional presence doesn't evaporate because words stopped flowing. If she detects you lingering in the background, still hopeful, still available, still emotionally on standby, the silence extends indefinitely. She knows the door stays unlocked whenever she's ready. Genuine release removes that safety net completely. It forces her to experience your absence as final. Not temporary. Not negotiable. Conclusive. Living as though her return belongs in science fiction isn't cruelty. It's clarity. And paradoxically, it's the only condition under which reconnection becomes remotely possible. Release her because your existence cannot orbit someone else's vacancy. Release her because your worth doesn't diminish in quiet rooms. Release her because chasing answers from someone who chose mystery only teaches them mystery controls you. The moment her silence stops dictating your emotional weather is the moment you start breathing again. You're not abandoning her. She abandoned the situation months ago. You're just finally acknowledging the departure she already made. Honoring reality isn't weakness. Pretending reality doesn't exist is. Stop decorating her absence with meaning she never intended. She left. The rest is just noise. The hardest part isn't her absence. It's realizing you no longer matter enough to be kept in the loop. What makes letting go feel like dying isn't the quiet itself. It's the ego collapsing in real time. One day you're significant. The next you're irrelevant. That transition breaks something deep inside men that words struggle to capture. Suddenly you're no longer shaping her emotional world. You're not occupying space in her thoughts. You're not the person she reaches for when something meaningful happens. That relevance you took for granted vanished without ceremony. For most men, losing influence feels identical to losing identity. But here's the confrontation you keep avoiding. If your entire sense of value disintegrates the moment she removes access, you were standing on sand the whole time. Not concrete. Not foundation. Sand. Her disappearance doesn't create weakness. It exposes weakness that already existed. Exposure burns like acid. But acid also cleans wounds that would otherwise fester forever. When months stack up and she maintains complete radio silence, men convince themselves persistence demonstrates strength. One final message proves maturity. One more attempt shows emotional courage. That's not courage. That's trespassing on someone's clearly marked boundary. Real courage is restraint when every cell in your body screams for action. Real courage is allowing someone to sit with consequences of choices they made. Real courage is swallowing words that demand to be spoken. She selected distance from your presence. Respecting that selection protects something more valuable than the relationship ever was. Your dignity. Her silence restructures power in ways most men completely miss. You assume her absence means she's holding all the cards. Wrong. Control only exists when you've surrendered your inner peace to her behavior. The moment you stop monitoring the void, stop assigning meaning to every detail, stop reading tea leaves in her social media activity, power rebalances entirely. Obsession gives way to something foreign. Clarity without desperation. You stop asking what her silence means. You start asking what you need to rebuild. Men fantasize that sufficient patience forces recognition. Wait long enough and she'll finally see your value. But value requiring absence to be appreciated was never truly valued when you stood right in front of her. Silence doesn't manufacture appreciation. It tests whether attraction survives without constant reinforcement. When attraction fails that test, her silence wasn't punishment. It was confirmation. Confirmation that investment flowed one direction only. Confirmation that your presence served convenience rather than necessity. Confirmation that significance was assigned, not earned. Ego withdrawal mimics drug withdrawal. Your brain chemistry literally changes when consistent validation disappears. Dopamine sources dry up overnight. Neural pathways built around her attention start screaming for input that no longer exists. This is biological, not just emotional. Understanding that distinction matters. You're not weak for struggling. You're human experiencing chemical recalibration. Compassion toward that process accelerates healing. Shame around it extends suffering indefinitely. As long as you keep the reunion movie playing in your head, You'll stay frozen in a life that stopped moving months ago. Fantasy is comfortable. Reality demands action. Most men choose comfort and call it hope. Releasing her forces demolition of something you've protected fiercely. The imaginary future where everything works out. That scene you replay where she returns apologetic. That conversation where she finally understands your value. That moment where patience gets rewarded with her presence. None of it exists outside your skull. Operating on the assumption that silence is temporary keeps you permanently stuck. Postponed acceptance creates postponed healing. You don't advance. You don't rebuild. You don't grow. You hover in emotional purgatory waiting for permission to live again. That permission was never hers to grant. Abandoning the fantasy doesn't require bitterness. It requires exchange. Trading what you wished happened for what actually happened. Trading imagination for observation. Trading hope for honesty. Here's what rarely gets spoken aloud. Many women deploy extended silence as leverage recalibration. They retreat strategically. Explore alternatives quietly. Reclaim independence deliberately. And observe from safe distance whether you remain perpetually available. If you do, you confirm something devastating. She can return whenever convenient without cost or consequence. Genuine release eliminates that leverage completely. It forces her to experience your absence as permanent. Not provisional. Not on pause. Finished. When she absorbs that finality, only two outcomes remain. She accepts the ending and continues forward. This reveals the connection flatlined long before silence began. You weren't losing something alive. You were mourning something already dead. Or she feels gravity of her choice and reaches out. Not because you waited correctly. Because you reclaimed yourself completely. Both paths lead somewhere real. Neither requires your suffering. What leads nowhere is camping outside someone else's locked door hoping they'll eventually feel guilty enough to open it. Men who truly release don't broadcast transformation. They don't craft announcements designed for her eyes. They don't post cryptic messages fishing for reaction. They simply withdraw and redirect everything into their own construction. Work gets attention. Discipline gets attention. Health gets attention. Purpose gets attention. She gets nothing. This redirection accomplishes something critical. It teaches your nervous system survival doesn't require her return. Once your body believes that truth, obsession loses its grip. Silence only feels unbearable when life lacks momentum. When no mission drives you forward. When no growth demands your focus. When no self-respect anchors your actions. The quiet becomes deafening because nothing else makes noise. But when hours fill with effort, expansion, and direction, her silence fades into background static. Barely noticeable. Easily ignored. Release isn't emotional decision. It's structural reconstruction. You architect existence where her absence no longer dominates every room. She becomes furniture you removed. Not a hole in the wall you keep staring at. Stop staring at holes. Start building rooms she never occupied. What if the void isn't your enemy but the only thing capable of showing you who you really are? Silence forces confrontation with truths that conversation perpetually buries. Words create hiding places. Absence eliminates them completely. When someone removes themselves for months, their behavior delivers a message no language could express more clearly. Your presence isn't prioritized right now. Maybe ever. That realization stings. But it doesn't translate to worthlessness. It translates to misalignment. Misalignment cannot be negotiated back into existence. Not through effort. Not through patience. Not through clever words or grand gestures. Alignment either exists or it doesn't. Her silence told you which category applies here. Release isn't waving a white flag. It's accepting what the battlefield already revealed. Acceptance unlocks the door to clarity. Resistance keeps that door bolted shut. Men routinely confuse dignity with endurance. They believe suffering silently while waiting demonstrates nobility. They measure devotion in pain tolerated. They wear patience like a medal earned through martyrdom. That's not dignity. That's self-destruction wearing an impressive costume. Dignity isn't measured by how long you absorb neglect. It's measured by how quickly you respond to truth once truth becomes undeniable. The man who releases early doesn't calcify into resentment. He softens into wisdom. He stops obsessing over winning her back. He starts questioning why he suspended his entire existence for someone who suspended him first. That question changes everything. Respecting her silence and orbiting her silence look similar from outside. Inside they're completely different planets. Respecting it means continuing your life without constant reference to her absence. Building without checking if she's watching. Growing without measuring progress against her approval. Living without waiting for permission. Orbiting means structuring every single day around the possibility of her return. Checking phones obsessively. Analyzing mutual connections for information. Refreshing profiles for updates. Existing in perpetual standby mode. One rebuilds self-respect brick by brick. The other demolishes it quietly. True release removes her from the center of your internal story. She becomes chapter that concluded. Not cliffhanger you reread obsessively every sleepless night. Prolonged absence often exposes an uncomfortable pattern. Many connections survive purely on momentum. Remove daily contact. Break familiar routines. Eliminate emotional reinforcement. Nothing remains to sustain what existed. The bond wasn't as solid as you believed. It needed constant maintenance because foundation was always cracked. Release means allowing that truth to surface without fighting it. Stop propping up structures that cannot stand independently. Let them fall. Observe what remains. Men who release cleanly discover something unexpected. Relief. Not immediately. Gradually. Relief from constant emotional surveillance. Relief from endless self-interrogation. Relief from performing stability while privately unraveling. That relief isn't coldness. It's nervous system recovery. Your body learning peace doesn't require her validation. Your mind discovering thoughts don't require her approval. Your heart realizing it beats fine without her attention. Silence taught you something invaluable. You survived the very thing you feared would destroy you. Hope without action isn't romantic. It's slow poison convincing you paralysis equals loyalty. Men dramatically underestimate how toxic hope becomes when divorced from movement. You tell yourself waiting demonstrates commitment. You convince yourself patience proves depth. You believe stillness shows strength. You're wrong on every count. Hope without action transforms into fantasy. Fantasy hardens into paralysis. Paralysis quietly corrodes self-trust until nothing remains but a man who forgot how to move without permission. You stop believing in your capacity to generate outcomes. You've outsourced every possibility to whether she returns. Your future lives in her hands. Hands that haven't reached for you in months. Release shatters that cycle violently. It forces action without guarantees. And acting without guarantees is the bedrock of masculine confidence. Not knowing outcomes and moving anyway. That's what separates men who build from men who wait. There's uncomfortable truth her silence drags into daylight. If someone extracts themselves from your life for months without experiencing consequences, the relationship wasn't anchored in mutual necessity. It was sustained entirely by your availability. You were the foundation. She was the tenant. And tenants leave when better options appear. Foundations remain. Cracked. Weathered. Waiting for someone new to build upon them. Release means accepting that imbalance without self-destruction. Learning from it without drowning in it. Growing beyond it without repeating it under different names with different faces. Men who navigate prolonged silence with integrity report unexpected transformation afterward. They become deliberate where they were impulsive. Discerning where they were desperate. Slow where they once rushed. They stop fast-tracking intimacy with anyone offering attention. They stop being impressed by pretty words without matching action. They start watching patterns instead of listening to promises. This shift isn't cynicism wearing protective armor. It's recalibration. Silence recalibrates standards when you let it work. It teaches you valuing reciprocity over potential, presence over promises, demonstrated action over stated intention. Release demolishes another fantasy men protect fiercely. The belief that closure must be delivered by another person. Closure isn't conversation. It's conclusion. And conclusions don't demand consensus. They demand courage. Courage to declare this ended when effort became one-sided. Courage to walk forward without dragging unanswered questions like chains. Courage to accept not every story gets a satisfying final chapter. Men waiting for closure remain imprisoned indefinitely. Men who claim closure escape immediately. Extended silence frequently becomes the first occasion a man recognizes how much emotional labor he was performing just to keep something breathing. Remembering every significant date. Initiating every meaningful conversation. Repairing every tension. Reassuring every insecurity. Carrying all momentum alone. When that labor stops, imbalance becomes undeniable. You weren't partners. You were employee and employer. And she stopped paying months ago while expecting work to continue. Release isn't abandoning love. It's refusing to continue unpaid labor for someone who already clocked out. Stop working for free. Start investing where returns exist. Somewhere between the first silent day and the 100th, a man either breaks completely or rebuilds from the foundation up. There's no middle ground here. Prolonged silence forces a fork in the road. One path leads to destruction. The other leads to reconstruction. Most men don't realize they're choosing every single day. Pain eventually shifts from sharp to dull. From urgent to heavy. From screaming to whispering. That transition point is critical. Most men make their gravest error right there. They mistake emotional numbness for healing. They assume the reduced intensity means recovery happened. They rush to pry open doors that were never meant to be forced. Numbness isn't resolution. It's your nervous system recalibrating after dependency. Interrupting that process restarts everything from zero. Every premature reach-out resets the internal clock. Every casual check-in reopens wounds starting to close. Every carefully crafted message tells your body it still requires her permission to feel complete. Let the recalibration finish. Stop interfering with your own healing. Months of silence strip away illusions faster than any argument ever could. When someone erases themselves entirely, you're forced to examine the relationship without emotional anesthesia. Daily contact numbed you to problems. Routine interaction masked dysfunction. Her presence distracted from fundamental incompatibility. Now you see what was authentic versus imagined. You recognize how much you tolerated. How much you rationalized. How frequently you betrayed your own intuition simply to preserve connection. Release isn't about losing her. It's about losing the stories you invented to avoid facing truth. Hidden danger lives inside waiting. Most men never identify it until too late. Waiting conditions the mind to accept powerlessness. Day after day of hoping without acting programs you to believe your destiny depends entirely on someone else's decision. That programming spreads like virus. Beyond romance into career, into ambition, into self-image, into every area requiring initiative. Release breaks that programming permanently. It demonstrates movement creates outcomes. Not permission, not patience, not suffering silently until someone notices. Silence reveals whether you loved the actual woman or were addicted to emotional stimulation she provided. When she evaporates, what do you miss more? The genuine connection? Or how that connection made you feel about yourself? The attention, the validation, the sensation of being selected, the identity that came from being chosen. Be honest here. The answer matters more than comfort. Release forces separation between authentic love and dependency. That separation hurts like surgery without anesthesia. But it's mandatory if you ever want relationships that don't consume you from within. Men frequently fear release means she'll forget them completely. But forgetting isn't the genuine danger. The genuine danger is becoming forgettable to yourself. Losing your routines. Abandoning your standards. Sacrificing forward momentum because emotional energy stays trapped in a past that stopped responding. Release protects your continuity. It guarantees your story keeps unfolding whether she watches or not. Stop protecting her memory. Start protecting your future. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of this. The kind of man who doesn't chase because he's too busy becoming impossible to ignore. That man exists. But he only emerges when you stop looking backward long enough to build forward. Quiet dignity lives inside accepting that someone chose distance and honoring that choice without argument. Not from weakness. From unshakable self-respect. You're not obligated to battle for someone who retreated. You're not required to pursue silence hoping it transforms into conversation. You're not diminished for refusing to beg for acknowledgement from someone who stopped acknowledging you months ago. Release means trusting that whatever truly belongs in your life won't require you to abandon yourself to keep it. When months pass without change, something else crystallizes. Emotional closure is internal construction, not mutual agreement. You don't require her explanation to move forward. You don't require her apology to heal. You don't require her acknowledgement to rebuild. You don't require her participation to conclude. Release means reclaiming closure as something you generate yourself. Stop waiting for delivery. Start manufacturing it internally. Men who survive extended silence with integrity intact emerge transformed. Not in obvious ways. In fundamental ways. They become less reactive. Less needy. Less willing to overinvest without matching returns. They stop romanticizing inconsistency. They stop confusing emotional volatility with passion. They stop treating intensity as proof of connection. This transformation doesn't create coldness. It creates clarity. Clear about requirements. Clear about boundaries. Clear about identity without another person's reflection. Clear about worth without external validation. Silence cannot break a man who knows exactly who he is without anyone telling him. When you stop waiting, something strange happens to time. Days stop revolving around how long it's been. Weeks stop feeling like countdowns. Months stop carrying emotional weight. Time transforms from enemy into ally. Something you use rather than endure. That shift is powerful. A man who uses time wisely cannot be controlled by waiting. He builds while others hesitate. He advances while others hover. He creates while others consume themselves with speculation. There's an invisible force that develops when you stop needing someone to return. It doesn't announce itself. It radiates quietly. It shows up as calm, as patience without desperation, as reduced urgency without reduced standards, as groundedness that doesn't require external validation. Women sense that energy, even from miles away, even if they never return, because calm is the opposite of desperation. And desperation is exactly what extended silence was designed to expose. You pass the test, not by waiting correctly, by stopping the wait entirely, staying available without her investing anything confirmed she could return whenever convenient. No cost, no consequence, no urgency. Removing that availability changes the equation permanently. Either she feels the weight of losing you, or she continues forward without concern. Both answers serve you. Only uncertainty keeps you imprisoned. Stop being the emergency option she keeps in back pocket. The man who waits desperately for her comeback and the man who builds during her absence will meet her return as two completely different people. One collapses with relief. The other observes with curiosity. Guess which one maintains power? If she reappears after months of void, the man who truly released won't experience that anticipated rush. No fireworks. No salvation. No completed feeling washing over him. He'll feel calm, curious, grounded, unshaken. That groundedness is the authentic measure of growth. Her return no longer determines his emotional weather. She can arrive or disappear without causing internal storms. He can select instead of react. Engage without dissolving. Connect without surrendering. That's the only position from which any second chapter could survive. If she returns finding you unchanged, still waiting, still hoping, still emotionally on call, the dynamic reinstalls exactly where it fractured. Same problems. Same imbalance. Same predictable ending approaching. She'll respect you even less than before. Because now she knows with certainty. You'll wait indefinitely. You'll accept any treatment. You'll remain available regardless of her behavior. That knowledge destroys any remaining attraction permanently. But if she encounters a man who continued constructing, continued living, continued evolving without her presence, the dynamic becomes entirely foreign. Unfamiliar territory. New negotiations required. Not because you engineered this outcome. Because you genuinely released attachment to any outcome. The man who truly released during prolonged silence won't feel urgency upon her return. He'll activate evaluation mode immediately. He won't scramble to reconstruct what collapsed. He'll observe carefully. Does effort flow both directions now? Do values align beyond initial chemistry? Does respect exist beyond words? These questions matter more than feelings. Feelings lie. Patterns tell truth. Release transforms potential reunion from desperate fantasy into careful assessment. You're not auditioning for your old position. She's interviewing for a completely new one. That shift changes everything. She expected to find you exactly where she left you. Frozen. Waiting. Desperate for her presence. Ready to accept crumbs disguised as meals. Instead, she finds someone unrecognizable. Not bitter. Not closed. But fundamentally different. Someone who learned to generate happiness internally. Someone who discovered purpose beyond her validation. Someone who stopped needing her to feel complete. That man doesn't rush toward reconciliation. He considers whether reconciliation serves his current trajectory. Big difference. If she never reappears, the man who released won't organize his remaining years around loss. He already grieved. He already processed. He already integrated lessons. He'll organize life around growth that accelerated precisely because loss eliminated distractions. View silence not as wasted time but as the period where standards crystallized. Where discipline deepened. Where dependence dissolved completely. Every month without her became a month invested in himself. That investment compounds. That investment pays dividends forever. Release converts absence into development. Never damage. Always development. When you finally stop waiting for the void to answer, you discover something that changes everything. You were never the one who was lost. By the time you reach this stage, the transformation is complete. It didn't happen with fireworks. It happened in the quiet moments when you chose self-respect over desperation. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself to someone who isn't there. You no longer feel compelled to justify your worth to an empty chair. The desire to prove anything evaporates. This is where you finally understand the nature of dignity. It isn't something you demand from others. It isn't something she gives you by coming back. It's something you maintain internally, regardless of who stays or goes. Release means refusing to audition for a role in someone else's life while your own stage sits empty. The deepest lesson silence teaches is brutal but necessary. Connection without reciprocity isn't connection. It's self-abandonment. It's bleeding out while pretending you're donating. During the long quiet, the fantasy collapses. You see clearly that effort alone cannot bridge a gap someone else dug on purpose. Love cannot be carried by one back indefinitely. You stop mistaking endurance for devotion. Standing in the rain doesn't make you loyal. It just makes you wet. Devotion that requires erasing yourself isn't noble. It's slow-motion suicide. There's a strange tranquility that arrives when you stop requiring her return to feel valid. It doesn't look like arrogance. It looks like peace. It manifests as patience without underlying anxiety. Women perceive that calm instantly. It terrifies them because it signals the end of their control. Calm is the opposite of desperation. And desperation was the only thing keeping you tethered to her silence. When you cease trying to force your way back into her world, you eliminate the pressure she was resisting. But more importantly, you eliminate the weakness she was judging. Choosing not to react to absence communicates emotional self-containment. You are a complete system. You don't need external parts to function. So if she's been gone for months, let her stay gone. Not as a tactic to trigger missing you. Not as a game to win the breakup. Release her because your life deserves motion, not suspension. Release her because the man who stands steady in the void has nothing left to prove to anyone. Release her because waiting without building is spiritual erosion. When you finally stop chasing presence from absence, you don't just recover. You evolve. You step into a version of yourself that can never again be held hostage by silence. A man who learns to stand alone in the quiet, unshaken and unbroken, becomes someone the world cannot break. He doesn't wonder if she'll come back. He's too busy becoming the person he was always meant to be. The void didn't destroy you. It introduced you to yourself. The void didn't destroy you. It introduced you to yourself. And if this message found you at the right moment, if these words hit somewhere deep, then you're exactly where you need to be. Subscribe now. Because this journey doesn't end here. More content is coming that will challenge you, rebuild you, and remind you of the man you're becoming. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. Share this with a brother who needs to hear it tonight. You survived her silence. Now let's build something she'll never be able to ignore. Subscribe. The next chapter of your life starts now.